Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to bring on one of my good friends on the good old Twitter, now aptly named X by Elon's ever-changing ideas. We have Michael Cozy, the resident Ohio State fan, as he nicely did with his polo here. Good, he's got the assignment already. And yeah, you want to just introduce yourself and get into start and predict the schedule?
Yeah, so my name's Mike Cozy from Ohio my whole life, lived here, grew up a Buckeye fan, went to Ohio State, graduated 2012. Yeah, we can jump right into it. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. Week one, well, this game actually was on a Thursday last year. I think this is the first conference game, though. It's going to be on a Saturday, September 2nd at
yeah,
Indiana, 3:30 CBS. So we're starting right off with CBS games with Big Ten. So that's going to throw people off. And I cannot wait for the Twitter outrage of the SEC media.
yeah, and I'm pretty excited that we get to kick off the CBS schedule for the Big Ten. I mean, it's just like one of those things. It's like, okay, great. I mean, I think we know that this is a two-team conference. It has been for a while, even in some people's down years. It's just still been like very much it's the game and then the rest of the conference. And I don't think it's going to change. It's just exciting to see us to be the first program with Indiana on CBS. I mean, CBS loves Indiana, but not for football. They love them for basketball. It's probably going to be a home game for us at Indiana. I will say this: it's very weird that they're not doing like a home game for Michigan for the first CBS Big Ten game or a home game for Ohio State. Like CBS is going to literally say their Big Ten contract started with a game at Indiana.
Yeah, at Bloomington.
Yeah, like it's just comical. Like they could have really like tried to choose a better way to do it. I know the schedule is already preset, things like that. I mean, it's going to be better than that Sunday noon game between Rutgers and Northwestern, but no, I think we handle them easily. I think Indiana's really bad. I could see Indiana maybe winning 1 to 2 conference games this year, but for the most part, I'm not overly worried. It's a it's going to be a good test for us because as far as to see like what we actually have. I mean, we have a lot of new offensive linemen coming in. Um, we have 2 brand new tackles that we're going to throw out there. You have a brand new center. Um, so I mean, for the most part, it's going to be an interesting go about. So I'm excited, and then obviously our quarterback competition that's happening. We'll see who the starter is. I mean, I really think it's going to be Devin Brown. I think it's going to be pretty cool to see a guy with 33 out there. I could see some series from Kyle McCord. I actually think early on the first 3 games, you're going to see a lot of Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, maybe even taking every other series.
Yeah.
But by the time we hit Notre Dame, we have to have a set starter. So I think Indiana, I'm going to go with like something like 42-10
Yeah.
or
I
five.
mean,
Yeah.
it should be a beatdown. And I think it's one of those things too. Like I know Michigan got a lot of shit from it last year, but like I don't think, starting one guy and then starting the other guy the next time, just kind of see how it is as live scrimmages. I mean,
Yeah.
it worked for us. I mean, I don't think it's
Yeah.
yeah. And like the later we've seen that Kyle McCord hasn't been announced, I think it's kind of, indication it's likely to be Devin. That's just me as an outsider.
And you know what? Here's the other thing. So Devere Posey had a great tweet, and he kind of said package deals come a lot in with high school teammates that are best friends. Kyle McCord is best friends with Marvin Harrison Jr. Um, did we offer Kyle McCord because Marvin Harrison Jr. was on the fence of where he was going? Probably. It certainly seems like it. Is Kyle McCord a bad quarterback? No, not at all. He's a 4-star recruit. He's a 4-star quarterback for some reason, or for a reason, not some reason, but for a reason. Um, he's you got to understand. Most people don't understand how the star ranking works. It's when you go to camps, what you do on 7-on-7. He didn't have Marvin Harrison Jr. there for him every single time at every single camp. Everyone who says, "Oh, well, Marvin Harrison bailed him out," that's not it at all. So it pretty much was. I'm going to say he deserved the 4-star rating. Is he? He's more of a pocket passer, and I think we've seen that the pocket passer at Ohio State doesn't do as well as someone who can be mobile and be a pocket passer. So we've had a pocket passer the last 2 years who doesn't know when to scramble and doesn't know when to use his legs and is scared to use his legs. And we saw the result of that, where I don't think our team ever reached full potential either year. So,
Mm-hmm. And we can kind of run through these games. Youngtown
yeah,
State, I mean, I think that's kind of like obviously it's a bye
YSU,
team.
easy
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
Western Kentucky, easy win. Actually, Western Kentucky is going to be good for us
I was
because
gonna say it's great.
they
Great,
love
perfect.
to
Yeah.
throw the ball. It is literally a perfect thing for us to figure out, like, what do we have at defensive back? They may not do a lot of stuff well. They may not be on the talent level as us, but they're going to throw the ball and make our defensive backs work. We're going to find out what our front seven has as far as the pass rush goes, too.
Yeah,
So
you'll
that's going to be
score at
another thing.
will, but they're going to throw
Yeah,
the ball over the field, which is obviously the
absolutely.
biggest question last year was the
Yeah.
secondary, and it's a pretty good
Um,
answer right before you're playing Notre Dame too.
I'm going to be willing to bet that Western Kentucky puts up like 2 to 3 touchdowns on us,
Yeah,
just because of the style of the offense they play. We're not going to be ready for it. It could be late, but I think they're going to put some points on the board.
yeah. I mean, they
And
throw the
then
ball like 60 times a game. It's crazy.
you got the big one early on in the season. It's probably out of all the whole college football landscape, non-conference games wise, maybe the second best. I can't think
Yeah,
of anyone else outside of Florida State, LSU, and then us in Notre Dame. And it's not even like it's that big of a matchup. Notre Dame's ranked 13th. Most years, the Irish come in ranked way overrated. Um, Everyone says I should be worried about it. There's just something about, like, a lot of people say I shouldn't. A lot of people say I should. A lot of people predict they're going to beat us, and that's going to like turn our season around because we're going to get a wake up call early. I don't think it's happening. I just don't see it happening. I think that talent wise, we could literally pound the ball down their throat. And that's one thing with the new offensive linemen that we got coming in. I've heard that they've done amazing in practice. And I was looking at past, like in the past, what they've been giving ratings for certain O lines, things like that. This O line's kind of shaping up to be like a 2018, 2019 Ohio State offensive line as far as the ratings go. And the coaching staff is usually pretty hard on new players coming in. These guys are really, really starting to fill it out. So I'm kind of excited about that. One good thing is that I have heard is this. He's a redshirt sophomore. His name's Toby Wilson. He's really been making some noise, and so has Victor Cutler. So he's a junior transfer. So I'm kind of interested to see like those guys. So maybe we have some backup linemen if they get hurt, we can swing them around, things like that. Where a lot of people were worried about our depth, and then you have Josh Simmons. Um, he's probably going to be our swing tackle, or you might even have Fitzpatrick, who's a redshirt freshman, playing as well. I mean, from what I hear, there's a good nucleus of backups, not just the starters. So it's good depth that we have. I mean, you're probably Notre Dame's not the first game of the year, so there's no telling. We might not be extremely healthy. Who knows
mm-hmm.
what our running back situation will be at that point? Mayan Williams, Trayvon Henderson, we don't know. But I mean, this Chip Trainium, I don't even know how you pronounce his last name, but he's gotten a few I've seen like player of the day in practice, things like that. I mean, we all know what Dallin Hayden can do as well. He kind of filled in nicely last year. So I'm not really worried about the offense. I want to see what the defense does against Notre Dame. If the defense can hold against Notre Dame, which name their wide receivers.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing. Like everyone does
Then
this really cute line. It's like, all right, you can name two players. You have a left
na-
tackle who's going to go top five, and then you got Sam Hartman. Who's he going to throw it to?
name their tight end this year. Their tight end is
Exactly.
who? So I'm just I keep that's what I keep going back to with Notre Dame is like, where are they better than us at?
Yeah.
Maybe a few linemen. Their defense might be on the same level as us, but Sam Hartman probably they have the advantage, obviously. But who's he throwing to? Where's he? Like, are they just gonna like run screenplays all day to their running backs? And I don't know. I'm
I'm
just
with you.
I'm that's why I'm interested to see Notre Dame this week against Navy, because if they come out and they look terrible against Navy, I know it's Navy, but it's like it's also it's Navy. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't. then we know that your 13 ranking is way too high. And at the end of the year, Notre Dame never lives up to their ranking, whether they're fifth,
Yeah.
10th, 15th, 20th. They always are just falling off at the end of the year. So I'm not really. I think we win maybe like a 24-20 kind of game, maybe a 31-20 game where we score like super late, a touchdown to put it away, or we score like beginning of the fourth quarter, no one else scores points. Something like that's going to happen.
Yeah, like last year, you guys were in control the entire time. The score
Yep.
doesn't show it. I mean, you look at the live odds on gambling, you guys were like 10 to, minus 1,000 almost the entire game.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it got
Yep.
close, and I think they were leading even at halftime, but
Yeah,
everyone
they
knew
were up
it was
10-7 at halftime. So yeah.
yeah, it was
So
similar to our Penn State game last year where Penn State was leading at the half. It's crazy. So um after that game, which again, I agree with you completely. I don't think it's a game. Obviously, you worry about it, but it's not even like a big. Like I would say, it's probably one of going to be the easier wins for you in the sense that you're going to be already in that mindset of playing super hard because it is Notre Dame, and
yep.
it sucks for you guys on your resume that you're playing them in week 4 because last year, they proved how fake they were after the fact, so it
Yep.
still said top 5 win when you beat them. So but yeah, looking at the next game, yeah, you have a bye week, and then after that week is at home against Maryland.
I'm
So
not. I
yeah,
mean, Maryland gives us fits on the road at Maryland, but when they come to the shoe, it's usually like a 38-7 kind of game.
another
I
good secondary test too.
Yeah, I mean, they have a great passing game too, so it's really prepping us up for that game coming up in a few weeks after that Maryland game. So you got Maryland. I'm not really worried about them, but we can skip to the next game where I'm a little nervous.
Is it a night
I
game? Do you know it's a night game or not?
I have no idea right now, but here's the thing. It doesn't matter. Night game, non-night game. Um, we played them in 2007 at Purdue in a night game, and we dominated them. So, but then in 2009, we went there during a noon kickoff. We lost. 2011 noon kickoff. We lost. Then we didn't play there until we played there in 2013, and we dominated them. We blew them away. And then we didn't play them again until 2018. This is our first trip back since 2018. It's been the house of horrors for us. Lost 3 out of 4. Like, it is our kryptonite. And like, I don't know if you remember this, but 2012, Purdue came to the shoe undefeated, and Kenny Guyton had to come in and save us and took us down the field with like 30 seconds left. We scored, got a 2-point conversion, took it to overtime, and won in overtime. Like, Purdue is our kryptonite. We do not do well against Purdue. For whatever reason, there is just like this mind block that it's like, that is our team that always beats us. It's almost like Ole Miss with Alabama. Like they always find it. Ole Miss always finds a way to make that Bama game close or pull off the upset or something like that. For like the last 10 years, I think it's been Ole Miss has won like 4 games or something, which not a lot of teams can say against Bama.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Jeff Brom though, so that's an upgrade for sure.
Here's the thing: new coach for Purdue, new quarterback for Purdue, new wide receivers for Purdue.
Defensive coordinator, head coach too.
Yeah. So is their offense going to score points? Who knows? Is their defense going to get better? They should, I would think. I think this guy's a really good defensive coordinator, but is he a head coach? So we're going to find out. I think we want to make like a snooze fest. It depends. If it's a night game, they're going to be all ramped up and ready to go. And it'll be one of those like we're losing at halftime, like 14-10 or something like that. And then second half.
Yeah, you get the ESPN notification, upset alert.
Yeah, I know. Yep. So I mean, I'm not really worried about it per se, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I just my hope is we're not looking to next week, and if we're going into Purdue undefeated, we're not looking to next week because the next week probably going to be a top 5 battle. In the horseshoe. Probably going to be a night game, which Penn State fans are going to absolutely just go nuts over because they love to have us at their whiteout, and the TV networks are just getting sick of it because every time they have a whiteout, they lose every single time. So
their record in whiteouts is historically horrible, and no one likes to talk about it. They're like, I think they're below 500.
And you know what the funny thing is? The last time they had Iowa for a whiteout, they lost on an Adrian Claiborne block punt.
Yeah.
Like, so no one loves to talk about it because here's the thing: they always put Ohio State and Michigan as their whiteout game, and
Mm-hmm.
they never win the whiteout game. They never beat those two teams. They're always a perennial 10-2 power. So here's the thing: it's going to come down to this: do they have the intangibles and the weapons to outlast us? Because at that point in the season, we're going to have a defined starting quarterback. It's going to be one or the other. We're going to have someone established. We're going to be able to throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. You're not going to shut him down. No one has shut him down yet. So my thing is, if it's a nice fall night, no bad weather, nothing, I think we beat them by like 3 to 7 points. But I will say this: we are getting a defensive touchdown. Every time we beat Penn State, we always end up with a defensive touchdown.
JTT's
For
favorite game.
for a while there, I think it was 8 out of 10 years we had a pick six. Our record against Penn State was 8-2. Yeah,
And then the year
yeah.
they beat you guys was on like a block kick.
With a
Yeah.
blocked field goal, yes. So it's a weird rivalry to the extent where it's not really like we look at them like, okay, it's Ohio versus PA. It's usually a pretty big high school rivalry. Especially I lived near the border of PA when I grew up, and it was always like we had a all-star game, PA versus Ohio. It was the big 33, and it was kind of like, okay, let's go play these two teams and let's see who has better high school football. And I'll say this: it's one of those things where it's like if they were in the Big Ten from the beginning, it would be a huge rivalry. But they have only been here for 30 years. It's every once in a while it heats up again, but they haven't beat us since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been one of those things where there's been multiple chances for them. 2017, JT Barrett went absolutely crazy, 16 for 16 in the fourth quarter. Penn State blew a 13-point lead with 6 minutes left in Happy Valley in 2018. 2019, we got out to a huge lead. They came back, made it close, and it was just kind of one of those things where it was like 2020, you had to blow out. But I mean, you got to look at it. 2021, very close game. We played down to their competition at our house, and what happened? Oh, right before half, it was a 3-point game, and they fumbled, and we picked it up. And our who was it? He rumbled for like 65 yards for a touchdown. One of the D linemen. So it's like one of those things. Like every time, there's always like a defining moment where Penn State. It's just all the time when they play us. I think it's a mental block at this point, and it's really a mental block with James Franklin. He's not a good coach,
Mm-hmm.
plain and simple. I wish they would keep him forever because
Same.
in close game situations, he always finds a way to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think we pull out a tight win. And then essentially until we get to you guys, the next week is a big one.
I think this
Halloween.
is your second toughest game of the schedule. I've been saying it for a long time. I think this is the second biggest game, I think.
Halloween at Wisconsin. I've been there. If it's a night game, it's going to get really intense because I've been there for a night game. I've seen us lose a night game there. And former Buckeye captain Luke Fickell is also head
Yeah.
coach.
He would
So,
love nothing more than to put Day
yes,
on the hot seat and get him over there himself.
which it's kind of funny you say that because in his contract, he literally
Yep.
has
He could
that
leave
he can
for free.
for free with no buyout, anything like no cut the ties. Like, so obviously he wants the job. He could really honestly solidify the deal if he beats Ryan Day.
It's such a weird thing, man. They got an air raid system with the huge offensive lineman in Braylon Allen. I said it's
Yeah.
either going to be really good or really bad over there. Like they're
With,
going to
yeah.
go 10-2, 11-1, or it's going to be struggling for a bowl game again.
I actually think they win the West this year.
I'd agree.
It's either them or Iowa, and I just don't think. I mean, Iowa would be a great story, but especially with their coaches being on the hot seat, I don't think they perform as well.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa has never performed well on offense, so it doesn't really matter. But I don't know. It's going to be that one's going to be a tight one, but I think with experience that we have over them, and with the coaching, like the coaching staff established at Ohio State over Wisconsin, I think that's what pulls us through. I think
Yeah.
Wisconsin's going to take a year or two to get this thing rolling out and get it going. They're going to end up like 9-3, 8-4, which will be a successful year for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's going to be like world beaters, stuff like that. Here's the other thing you got to remember: Luke Fickell has 1 year as a Big Ten head coach. He went
Yeah.
6-6.
And we beat you.
Yep, exactly.
That's hard to do.
And so we went 6-6 and then lost the bowl game. And I don't know if you know this, but fun fact here: Ohio State had never lost more than 6 games in a season until 2011. Their first year to lose 7 was 2011. They've never lost more than 7 games in a season in the history of the program. So it's one of those things. Is Luke Fickell just a good coach at the group of 5 teams because he was awesome in Cincinnati, or is he a good coach overall? We're going to really find out in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, everyone thought Scott Frost was a home run, and Lord, did that go bad.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So moving on here, I mean, easy. I'm not worried about Rutgers.
Man, Michigan State. I was just talking to a Michigan State friend. Did they take one of your guys as girls or something? Because every time it's like a night game or it's like a New Jersey and you just kill them. I mean, I forgot what game it was when they were ranked like top 10. And it was like I think it was the biggest point spread in the history of a top 10 matchup. And it was like 58-0 at halftime. It's crazy.
It was 49-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
It was 2 years ago. It was right before we played you guys. And everyone was like, oh man, this is like a trap game. Michigan State's coming in, and we have history with Michigan State. Our fans don't look too kindly on them. I mean, if people know college football history, '98 we were number 1 the whole season, blowing teams out of the water, and we were up 24-9 on Michigan State. Normal Ohio State game, third quarter, and then all of a sudden we start dropping passes, fumbling the ball. We had a punt go off of our player's helmet, and Michigan State recovered with a 1st and 10 at like the 15, and they scored a touchdown. And then the next thing you know, it was 28-24, and there was 2 minutes left in the game, and it was like, okay, like. And the other thing that's worse about it is the quarterback that day went to a very small high school, which happened to be my rival high school growing up, and his name is Bill Burke. He went to Howland High School, and he beat us that day. So there's always been like that, screw you, Michigan State. Like if you were at the game or if you were watching the game, I mean, I was at the game. I remember walking out of there as a little 9-year-old kid going, well, this is just not fair. Like, how can our beloved Buckeyes, who are number 1 in the country, lose to such a terrible team? And fun fact, Nick Saban was the head coach of Michigan State then. Mm-hmm. So, like, that is just a whole, like, another fold.
That explains it, man. That must be it.
Yeah, and it's like we just – I will say this. We do a lot of night games against Michigan State. I think that they want to prop up Michigan State, but it'll be interesting. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a blowout. The only way it's a close game is the date of the game and the time of the game. And if it's snowing, and I mean just an absolute, like, dumping 6-7 inches on the ground and just neutralizing the field, and it's a whiteout kind of thing, that's the only way Michigan State's coming in and making this game even within 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, for sure. They have a good defensive front, and that's it. So
and then the next week, obviously, senior day, Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota's like that team that they could go 10-2, and I'd be like, cool. And then they're the team who could go 6-6, and I'd be like, yeah, not shocked. Like, didn't they lose like Bowling Green like 2 years ago and go 9-3?
Correct.
Something like that. Yeah, so that's Minnesota. That is going to be Minnesota all the time. They never are going to be Big Ten West champs. They're never going to be like they may win the Big Ten West eventually, but they're just never going to be like they're never going to be Big Ten champs. And now we're going away from divisions. The only way they would like do anything like that or make the playoffs is if they have a favorable schedule. Don't play like USC, don't play Michigan, don't play Ohio State, and play like a down Oregon team, a down Washington team, and they go 11-1 and don't make the conference championship game, but make the playoffs because they're ranked in the top 12.
Yeah, and
That's
all of us just round robin beat each other up.
exactly, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. And it's like Minnesota's a great team for what they are. They're always going to be that 9-3, 8-4, middle of the road Big Ten team who goes to the Outback Bowl and wins the Outback Bowl like every other year.
They carry our bowl record because it's their biggest game of the year.
Exactly. So good for them. But I could see like a 28-35, like something score, maybe like something like to 10, something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. And then obviously the next week, nice little travel up to Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. We can.
No, we got to. It's the main reason we got you on here.
Man, we've lost 2 in a row. And I'm going to say this: Ryan Day has he doesn't win this one, he's done. Yeah, I mean this is it. You have to be Michigan.
I've not been alive for 2 in a row, 2 wins in a row. It's the first time ever in my lifetime.
Well, you guys were in my childhood, so yeah. I was alive for 3 losses in a row. I was alive for multiple 3 losses. Actually, not multiple. Yeah. Actually, believe it or not, I've only been alive for 3 losses in a row.
Yeah.
95, 96, 97. And we rolled into all 3 of those games ranked in the top 5. Once again, we were ranked in the top 5 these past 2 seasons. And now you're starting to throw the word John Cooper around with Ryan Day if he loses this one, because I think we're coming in ranked top 5. I think it's a top 5 matchup. I think it's for the Big Ten East. And I think, honestly, Ryan Day has to win this, and he has to win the Big Ten. I'm not even going to say he has to win the Big Ten to keep his job. If he loses to Penn State, but he goes up to Ann Arbor and beats Michigan, he keeps his job.
I'd agree.
If he beats Penn State but loses to Jim Harbaugh and Michigan at Ann Arbor, he's done. This is the single game that revolves around him keeping his job. Mm-hmm. He has to win this game. It's going to come down to, can we stop the run? I can tell you in our weight room, in our training practice facilities, 435 is all over that place. Do you know what 435 is?
Oh, of course.
Okay. I didn't know.
For the viewers, it's the amount of rush yards, I believe, in the second half of the last 2 games.
Yeah. That is 435 yards in both halves, the last 2 games. The other thing is, at the end of every practice, they're back to doing 30 minutes to 45 minutes strictly dedicated to Michigan. That has been gone for the last 2 years. Ryan Day literally was saying in 2020, we don't need to beat Michigan to win a national title now. Technically, he's right by last year's standards.
Correct.
But I think with the donors, NIL members, people like that, he has got to win this game. He's got to win this game or he's out the door, and you're either getting Luke Fickell or Brian Hartline, which I'm not opposed to because they get the rivalry. The thing is, has Ryan Day bought into the rivalry enough? I don't know, but I can tell you one thing for sure is the man has never shown emotion. The man stands on the sidelines, has never done anything until one game, that Georgia game last year. He showed emotion. If we get that Ryan Day every single week, I know we're going to be a pretty damn good team.
Yeah, that's where we agree completely. I mean, I remember we've talked about it a few times on Twitter where it's like,
yeah,
The damn idiot Caleb Williams and that lack of a defense, painting his fingernails, letting Utah beat him. You guys got
Yep.
second life, and he was obviously you should have won the Georgia game. I don't even need to go there, but
Yep.
we should have won our playoff game too, for Christ's sake.
Yep.
And he had passion and aggression, and kind of what you've been saying with the whole boosters thing. My grandfather, I watched the game with. He's I think he's 80 now. He said the same thing as my mom, who's 50, and she watched everything too. And she's like, they're both like, I wouldn't care. Just, who cares if he lost to TCU? We beat Ohio State. And it's just obviously
Yep.
that's like a mentality.
Yep.
And Ohio State fans like to jokingly joke it's not their Super Bowl and act tough on Twitter. We're the same way. It really is to the point where it's almost like you'd rather go 11 and 1-11 and beat the other team and then
Yep.
go 11-1 and lose, because that's just how it is. And the SEC fans don't understand that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. And it's like, I, I was having this debate the other day about with an Auburn and Alabama fan, and they were talking about how they have the greatest rivalry, and I'm like, no, not at all. And they're like, well, both of our teams are relevant. Michigan's just getting relevant, and I'm like, Michigan's been relevant throughout all of college football. They just haven't won a national title. Like that's all there is. And if you really want to think about it, before 2002, Ohio State hadn't won one since '68. That was a long period between national titles. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be depending on Devin Brown and Kyle McCord, and it's going to depend on if we can stop the run. If we stop the run the last two games, we probably win the last two games as well. They were very tight, close in the basically going into the second half. Last year we were winning at halftime, and we just could not stop the run, and the offense just stalled out, and it looked like our team quit on the field, plain and simple. So I'll say this: there's a lot of players who came back who said, I can go pro, but I'm going to come back. I want to win the Big Ten. I want to beat Michigan. I want to win a national title.
Yeah.
There's a lot of our players who have that circle even more this year that we've got to get it done.
But
So
shout out the NCAA for giving Michigan extra motivation, because I've been saying the same thing. I'm like, these kids, more than half the roster on Michigan has never lost to Ohio State. And it's that you got to keep that mental sharpness and, getting complacent and like, oh, we're going to beat them, blah, blah, blah. That's why when they're like, hey, we have this beat Georgia thing, I'm like, all right, can we have a beat Georgia and a beat Ohio thing if we're going to add segments onto practice? Because I don't want, they're dead and buried. We're putting the casket down. I want them to open back up and be like, no, we're back. Because again, my
see,
best friend, we've gone every game. He was at that game where we finally beat you guys. And he literally looked at me. This is after we won. As we're starting to try to rush the field, he looks at me, he goes, are we the girlfriend that just, called the cops on the abusive boyfriend? He's going to show up with the shotgun.
yeah,
That was his direct quote. Because, like, even with the confetti
yeah,
not even on the ground, we were like, we're going to lose again next year. And this is the first time in my lifetime where I can firmly say I'm confident we're going to win. And that's almost
yeah,
scary.
yeah. And you know what? That's why I love it, because
Yeah,
Michigan fans think that they are going to beat us this year. Penn State fans think they're going to beat us this year,
that's
and
crazy.
I'm just like, let us ride this underdog wave. Like
No one's picking you.
I
It's pissing me off.
I
Like,
know everybody's picking Penn State to win the conference. Everyone's picking Michigan. Like we're just sitting back, and if Devin Brown is as good as I hear, we'll be okay.
mm-hmm. Hey,
So
I'm sure we'll both be undefeated going into the game, like it's been the
yeah,
past few seasons. It is what it
yeah.
is. And
So
I'll definitely get you on closer to it. But other than that, any teams you'd like to see in a potential playoff? Anybody that circles your mind?
you know, I'm gonna I'm gonna put my playoff teams out there.
Because in
Um,
theory, you'll be. I imagine you're going to win, and you'll be in the Rose Bowl, so you'll probably be hosting someone.
I think we're gonna be in the Rose Bowl, and I think we're gonna play. I I actually, believe it or not, I think that Georgia misses the playoffs. I actually have Alabama in the playoffs. I have us in the playoffs. I have. I'm gonna go with it. I have Texas Tech.
I
I
like that.
really, and I have
I'll address
Washington,
that coming up soon.
and I have Washington.
I don't hate that at all, man. So would you be
Now,
the one, or would Alabama be the one?
Alabama would be the one.
Okay.
If we don't beat you, it's interchangeable. You guys will go to the Rose Bowl, but I'm very firm on Texas Tech and Washington,
Hmm.
both winning their conferences. And I think that the ACC cancels themselves out. I think Clemson and Florida State cancel themselves out. I think that Clemson wins the first meeting. They rematch in the ACC title game. Florida State beats Clemson and knocks them out of the playoffs.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you again for coming on.
Yep,
And
absolutely. Thanks, Blake.
we'll definitely have you on closer to the game.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Blake.
And now we are joined by one of my good friends from college, and unfortunately for me, fan of the two-time, back-to-back, soon to be hopefully three-time for him, national champion Georgia Bulldogs. We've got our friend Duke Coward here. Thank you for hopping on the channel, Duke. And yeah, we'll hop right into the schedule here. Obviously, after coming off of a few of these teams that are struggling for wins, this will be a bit quicker and funnier of a schedule preview. We start off with the UT Martin Skyhawks. All righty. The vaunted Skyhawks. Obviously, no worries here. Anything you're looking forward to? Maybe Carson Beck's first career start.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be Carson Beck's first career start, but as it's UT Martin, so by the third quarter, it's probably not going to be a very watchable game. And these first two games, Ball State and UT Martin, are where I would really like to see some Brock Vandegrift come in the second half and actually see how he is on a par-to-par level with Carson Beck. But I mean, other than that, like it is what it is, you know.
Who cares? Yeah.
Who cares?
Michigan,
Yeah.
I know, got a lot of flack for it, and nationally, not nationally, but more like in the conference as a joke. But when last year we had Cade McNamara start a game and then JJ start a game, obviously there isn't really a quarterback battle there. But if
Yeah.
you give Brock a start, it's kind of more like give him a start or two, keep him like roster retention wise. The last thing you'd want is to him to hop into the portal mid-season, kind of like what Cade McNamara did, and then you're like an injury away from hell scene.
Well, then another concern is like we really kind of seems like from what has been previewed in a lot of the media and from the Kirby Smart pressers, we truly do kind of have three studs in the room, and the third stud being Gunnar Stockton. So I think after not this year, because I think Carson Beck clearly has it, but I think next year there's going to be a lot of drama in that quarterback room.
Especially with Raiola coming in.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I completely forgot about Roca. Yeah, true. So yeah, I think one of them is going to leave. Like, there's no doubt about it. So we'll see what happens.
It's three really good options. I mean, after JJ leaves, likely this year, Michigan, we're looking at a 5-star, well, now a 4-star. He got downgraded. Quarterback coming in and a few other backups, like one walk on and one basically running back converted.
Yeah.
So the worst things have happened. Then you got the first game here, South Carolina, 3:30 CBS. Now, my cousin and my best friend growing up is a South Carolina fan, and he wanted me to mention that every 4 years they beat you guys, and it's been 4 years since the last one. I don't know if that's any obvious things have
Well,
changed for Georgia those 4 years for sure, but have to put it out there.
well, I mean, a lot of times it's a second year at South Carolina.
Yeah,
What's his face? I can't even think of it right now. But the second
Beamer.
year is always a statement year for a head coach, and you know, it's South Carolina. It's not considered like a deep rivalry or anything, but there is some rivalry kind of instincts there, and I think that is somewhat of a sleeper game. And I've never heard the 4 year stat, which is very interesting. But yeah, it's in Athens, which is kind of lowers the chances of it being kind of a sleeper upset game, but because we get loud now at Athens. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that game, and yeah.
Yeah. Next week, UAB Blazers again. Not really moved. A bit of a better of a Group 5 team, but it's still a Group of 5 team nonetheless. Oh.
Yeah.
And then we get to what I guess is a
Auburn.
rivalry game. I haven't really known that it was a rivalry game. I know Porter mentioned it last time at Auburn.
Yes. This is one I'm really looking forward to. I actually might go to Mr. Freeze and the Tigers. You know, currently I would say it's somewhat of a program in shambles.
I'd agree. I'd agree.
But it definitely is on the come up. I would say they are probably at the same position Florida was at last year,
Yeah.
potentially. And I think we're gonna win it. So there's not much to say about that. But another thing to bring up is we lost a lot of elite pass rushing ability when we lost Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. And that is one of those things that really allows for sleeper teams to open up, even though we have a very elite backfield of like Kamari Lassiter, Malachi Starks, Javon Bullard. But even though when you don't have guys like Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith always on the quarterback 24/7, that really allows for a quarterback to catch fire, and he has that time. And so these games that are like the Florida and Auburn, Ole Miss, Tennessee, these are games that you don't see it coming. They blow up in your face, like we had Missouri last year where we weren't winning till the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And these kind of games happen, and they're not expected to happen, but they happen, especially if we do not figure out some very disruptive pass rushing.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
You got Mikael Williams, who's a freak show, but that's pretty much it, you know. And obviously he can't go, thankfully for you guys, can't go to the draft next year because he's only a sophomore. But, you know, obviously I've gotten it a little bit recently with Michigan as well. You know, all these teams, like this is their Super Bowl. You circle on the calendar, you're playing Georgia, you know, and that's why you even saw like Kent State last year put up a bit of a fight, which is crazy, right? Every team's like, look, this is our one team on national television for half these schools. Let's go out there and do our thing. And thankfully for you guys, Auburn, I mean, they're starting the Michigan State leftovers of Peyton Thorne. That kid sucks.
Yeah.
Robbie Ashford is a mobile threat, which I thought would have been a bit more of a, you know, always a question if he gets hot, but there's some politics there. He's not going, but Auburn coming out of nowhere and starting to take some of these 5-stars, like from the hands of you guys in Alabama.
Hugh Freeze is a phenomenal offensive coach. So
yeah,
we'll see.
You're letting Freeze cheat legally now. It's guys like him are loving it. You know, they've been dreaming of this for years. You know, they've been pioneers on the front line for that for a long time, and now they're allowed to do it. So that's good for them.
SEC baby.
Probably I would say the third or second best team on the schedule goes to Athens week. What is that? 6 October 7th. The Kentucky Wildcats with Devin Leary, arguably upgraded at quarterback. I would say.
Yes.
Levis is a pro quarterback, not as much as they.
Yeah, I really didn't understand, just kind of a sidebar. I really struggled with a lot of the hype around Levis, and I understand he's a really strong. But if you look at the draft numbers, I believe Stetson been out through Levis. Just saying.
Oh yeah, big time.
But you know, Kentucky, solid team. They have always played us hard. Like it's no matter what. I mean, maybe like 2 years ago, it actually wasn't that, but they've always played us hard. And again, like I said earlier, it's one of those games that just could easily blow up in our faces. I don't think it's the highest probability out of a lot of these teams on here, but it's definitely a probability. And I just wanted to say, you know, I was watching, what's his name? Oh God. Josh Pate.
Yeah.
And I was watching his stuff, and he did this great schedule comparison, and he took our schedule and he literally goes, all right, now look at the schedule and imagine if this was Arkansas. Now, you're not saying this is the easiest schedule in the world. Now, I'm going to highlight a few things he said about our schedule. He goes, there are 5 opponents in the SP plus preseason top 30. We only play one preseason team in the top 15 SP plus. However, out of all the SEC schools, every single SEC team plays 3 or 4 top 15 teams. We only play 1. So that's like the big hitch. And I was like, yeah, that's really kind of what makes it seem like cupcakes, because we're not, the West is really what adds to a lot of those top 10, top 5 SP plus matchups. So I don't know. I mean, we're playing good teams and we're not playing great teams, but in the end, I think this could come back to haunt us in some sense, because let's say we drop one of these games and then like the season's done if we go into the SEC championship and lose. So it's a blessing and a curse. And I think the blessing is that, yes, I think it's going to allow for a lot of our team to save energy throughout the season and stay healthy. However, in the late season, it could come to bite us in the ass. So, yeah, that's what I have to say. A lot of
these kids, you know, don't have the hunger that the old Georgia teams did of being close. I have the same worries as Michigan. You know, 3/4 of this roster on Michigan's teams beating Ohio State twice, and they think the norm for Michigan is going to the Big Ten championship game, which I would tell you as a 20-year-old, you know, Michigan fan, God knows that's not the norm. So, you know, you always hope and hope these kids have that passion, that grind still. And then, you add in the money to it now and it's getting a little twisted. But
Yeah, well, it's
listen
kind
to
of
that pregame speech from Kirby. I'm telling you right now, he'll get him fired up to play goddamn Vanderbilt.
he really does have like some kind of cult mentality within that locker room, just like somehow convincing those players that they're not good. So,
I mean, I don't know what's happened in the last week. Josh Pate predicted Alabama to win the SEC and win it all. Every single person on College Game Day this weekend predicted Alabama to win the SEC. I'm like, Kirby's going to be able to pull off this bullshit again where he's like, we are the underdogs. And, despite being plus 200 to win it all, I saw it more this year than I did last year. Last year, I saw everyone say Georgia the entire time. And I was like, this is some BS. Now I'm like, okay, there actually is a large amount of media personalities that are like, it's Bama, bro. They don't even have a quarterback.
I just think a lot of it is the Nick Saban conviction. And I think they're like a lot of people just have seen Nick Saban's success, and they're just like, he's not going to allow Kirby to do this again. He's just not. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest kind of driving factor behind Alabama. But yeah, quarterback position is a question mark for them. So who knows? And also the big thing with when we played teams like Alabama and they had like Jamison Williams, like those are the players that would break up our defense and expose our defense. And with Ohio State, Marvin Harris Jr., when those players went out of those games, it kind of went more towards our way because there are players that some of these teams have like offensive weapons that are able to expose our defense's schemes faults. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's why Ohio State was able to match up with you guys and we couldn't do a thing because we have nobody's at receiver and we're like, we're going to run the ball down your throat. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, not against our defensive line.
And you look at Alabama, speaking of them, I mean, their best player is your leftover, probably on a skill position, is Jermaine Burton leftover. And his season highlight was punching a sorority girl in the face against Tennessee. Yeah. So not moved there. Up next, Vanderbilt. At Vanderbilt in that little high school stadium that they're at this year because their stadium isn't complete.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's going to be absurd having a Georgia football game in a high school.
Yeah, with like 20,000 people in it or whatever it is.
Oh my goodness, that's going to feel like a scrimmage for our players.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure it'll be half Georgia fans, if not more. I remember you guys played them a few years ago, and it was like you could hear the people barking and stuff like at the game, and it was in Nashville. So. Oh, a trip to Nashville plus watching football on the side. That's what I'm doing this upcoming weekend.
No, Nashville's a freaking party, man. That place is fun.
Yeah. So yeah, don't even waste time on that one. Then you get the bye week, October 21st, into Florida, the world's largest cocktail party. This is probably one of the worst Florida teams I can ever remember. They're starting Graham Murder Mertz, as he's been now called by the Florida fans who have convinced themselves they have a chance against Utah, which is quite funny in my eyes. They got two good running backs. Their receivers are bad. Their defense is a little bit all over the place. And Graham Mertz is one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen. These rejected Big Ten quarterbacks just going down in the SEC and these teams being like, nah, they're good, bro. I reckon they're going to do this. No, dude, Graham Mertz was horrible. Joe Milton wasn't good. What do you think about Florida this year?
Listen, I disagree with you slightly. I think they're just going to be I don't think they're going to be leaps and bounds better than they were. But, from my buddies that go to Florida, I've heard there was a lot of a culture issue amongst the players, among like Anthony Richardson, who apparently was getting paid a nice NIL package.
Oh, yeah.
And basically kind of screwed off once he got that check. And so I don't know. I think the culture is probably going to be a little bit better because you have a little bit more mature senior leadership, it seems like, at the inside the locker room. However, it's the world's largest cocktail party. Like it's going to be a good football game, and it's another one of those games. I don't know much about their quarterback this year besides what you said. He sucks, and I don't know about his passing ability, but yeah, it's always just a game you got to be on the edge of your seat for because it's in Jacksonville, even though we're going to travel well for it. It's a very passionate game, and that's Florida's Super Bowl that year. So
that's
about it.
Sure. Then up next, we got another home game here. Well, back in Athens this time. November 4th, the Missouri Tigers come to town. Eli Drinkovitz is coming off of some pretty shocking, for most people, recruiting wins. Their new NIL legislation, I don't know if you know this, is in Missouri. In-state Missouri athletes can get paid from the time they commit. So the kids, their high school kids that are getting committed are already making money. And that's the main reason why they got those 2 5-stars in the last 2 weeks that are in state Missouri. So like, why is Mizzou getting 5-stars? Well, the kids are getting paid now, and obviously they kind of like it's more of almost like a sign thing. It's hard for them to get out of it. They'd have to give the money back, but they're getting paid much earlier, which means they can get it much easier. So now you got like juniors in high school making 6 figures. So but none of that matters now. What matters is Mr. Drinkovich's team as of now, and obviously, yeah, maybe a little bit of a revenge spot from last year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it happening. But who's your quarterback this year?
I don't even know. Let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, I know they had a kid last year that could run it a little bit.
Yeah, that's what
Let's see,
I'm
Missouri
looking it up right now.
Tigers quarterback, Brady Cook. I believe he was there
Brady
last
Cook.
year.
He was the
Yes.
guy that played last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was one of those games I've been talking about. I've repeated it a million times during our little talk here, but it's they're going to be fired up. It's their Super Bowl. It's in Sanford, so like yes, the probability of that's going to go down. However, it's SEC football. It's any given Saturday. So I don't know. I don't really have much to say on that game, but I think they're going to come back firing, and hopefully Georgia can show up.
And now you've got 2 back-to-back games here, which are pretty tough. One I think is much tougher than the other one, and it's not what anyone's going to think. I think the Ole Miss game is a much better matchup than the Tennessee game. Ole Miss got some big guys. They've got the deepest quarterback room in the country, I would say. They've got 3 legit starters in there, which is kind of nuts, but they're all staying. I think Jackson Dart is, as of now, the guy there. They've
Yeah,
got
he's
probably the best running back as well, Quishon Judkins. And Zachary Franklin is a transfer from UTSA, the best group of 5 receiver out there. They've got a lot of horses there, but is that defense anything again this year?
So wait, let me
Likely
ask you,
not.
what are the 2 games you think is going to be harder, Ole Miss or Tennessee?
I think Ole Miss is harder.
Yes, I agree. Okay. Here's the thing. This is Lane Kiffin walking in Stanford Stadium. The last time I saw Lane Kiffin run into deep enemy territory, he looked like he just snorted 5 Adderalls before walking in the stadium, and he was pulling some really gutsy plays on 4th and short. And
This is his biggest game, man. He's
yeah,
ready for
and
this one.
so he's going to do that same exact thing, and Lane Kiffin's going to do Lane Kiffin, and either it's going to work or make him fall on his ass.
Correct.
And this is going to be one of those games where I think we're going to see some long bombs being thrown. It's a classic Lane Kiffin game. And this is a game where I think our secondary is really going to be tested. And I'm not too sure about Ole Miss's wide receiver room. However, I know Jackson Dart's a
They got one guy.
What's his name again?
Zachary Franklin. He's a transfer. That's about it. But
yeah, but I know Jackson Dart's he's legit. And so and it's a lane train. So, he's always been a good offensive coach. And I think this is going to be one of those games where our DBs, our secondary, and our pass rushers really have to step up and really stay on top of it, because this is one of those teams that can really just go light up like 14 points out of nowhere. And yeah, and I just also think it's one of those games like one of the best things we saw with Georgia last year is that we didn't see it with the 2 years ago, is that Stetson Bennett really knew how to score last year, and he had a lot of moxie about him when he came down the field. Even when the other team opponents scored, he was a good player driving the ball back down the field and making sure we are staying in that lead or staying in the game. I keep on seeing all these reports in the media, figureheads talking about how Carson Beck's a very mature and cool-headed kind of guy, but that's not necessarily what I've heard among like the student body and like a lot of kids that are currently students there. There's a lot of reports of like he has and this is all speculation and rumor, by the way, but there's a lot of reports among students and stuff that he has like a lot of nervous problems before games, and he likes to throw up a lot before games, and that is not something you're going to see out of a national championship quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the greatest assets Stetson Bennett has, was his absolute moxie and mental toughness throughout games. He just knew how to will a win, and this is going to be one of those games where, if I don't think it's going to happen, but Tennessee or Ole Miss could come out and score pretty easily, not easily, but they will score. And it's up to the quarterback and the offense to respond to that. And we'll just see how Carson Beck plays out. I'm not sold on him at all, but I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be, if there's a game in question for that, it'll definitely be Tennessee in terms of the crowd atmosphere and
Yes.
everything. Because
Yes, I
I went
completely
to
agree.
that game last year against Florida, and my goodness, that place get loud. Like I thought the big house was a lot of people. Tennessee obviously had a little bit less people with the architecture and everything. It was crazy, and it's gonna be such a tough season to predict for Tennessee because we just don't know what the hell is gonna happen. Because I think Hendon Hooker is super slept on. I mean, that guy had a supercomputer for a brain, and the way he was able to like make those calls to the line. I don't know if Joe Milton's got it, but he's definitely got a lot of Anthony Richardson in him. And it's going to be very interesting to see if his just pure freakness of an athlete is just going to overwhelm other teams. I think that the Tennessee scheme, as gimmicky as it is, it takes a lot of the thinking out of it at times where it's like, hey, look, hit this guy wide open, boom, hit this guy wide open, boom.
Yeah.
But obviously it doesn't fly against the top tier defenses like Georgia, who's got elite secondary to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to have pretty similar comments about this game as I did with the Ole Miss game. You know, my biggest concern with Joe Milton is just like our pass rushing again is just like if we get him in the backfield, what is he going to do? Because this
Yeah.
is the kind of guy that will go whoa, and get all around you and just kind of like there'll be holes in the defense of that game. And we're going to see how our guys really play in that hostile environment because that's going to be by far the biggest test of the season as far as atmosphere and players and stuff like that. Like culminatively, because I think us playing Ole Miss at home is really going to be an advantage for us. But yeah, that's all I kind of have to say about that one.
No, for sure. And then the glorified bye week at Georgia Tech. The
Yeah,
program, one of the greatest falls from graces we've seen recently, but they don't even have any fun guys. Like last year, they had 2 years ago they had Jameer Gibbs. Last year they had Jeff Sims. This year, what's the guy? Haynes King, like the third string from Texas A&M, I think is their quarterback now.
yeah.
Who cares?
No, I really don't care about Georgia Tech. It's kind of like I'll have it on in the background while I'm watching other games that weekend. But
Yeah, watch the Michigan Ohio State game.
yeah, is that the same weekend?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably nice for a guy like you. That's like, hey, look, man, we have a free win, and we can just kind of watch the chaos. We can watch like last year was,
Yeah.
at the same time slot as your game was Clemson, South Carolina, and Michigan State or Michigan Ohio State.
Yeah.
So good weekend, be a neutral there. But week 13 not on the schedule, obviously. Championship week. Who are we looking for in the West? What are some teams we like?
And
I mean,
it's either going to be LSU or Alabama. That's kind of it. Brian Kelly's back, second year. He's a damn good football coach. Jaden Daniels, you like him for the Heisman. So that's a team with just a lot of raw athletes, and let's see if they can bring it together. And I'm so excited to see the LSU Bama game, and I just think it's going to be a hell of a game, whatever happens. And as a Georgia fan, I'm gonna say we're probably going to be in it, obviously.
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'm not going to know what to think of the game until I know who we're playing. So, and I see how actually Alabama works out this season. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting. But I just think some of the biggest questions that we have as a team right now is our running back room. One, because we just saw Branson Robinson go out. Dejon Edwards is out. And then, so right now it's looking like we're be starting Roderick Branson and then hopefully Kendall Milton will be back. But, that's another hole in our offense that could really bleed out through the season if we do not have good depth at that position. And we got to see how these guys turn out. And, that's going to impact the level of QB play, because if a QB knows that he has really strong running backs behind him, that gives him a lot more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be that's a big question. I will say I hope the hype around our offensive line this year is true, and I think that will play a big factor in that RB room and helping them out. And another thing I think that's a good talking point is the wide receiver situation. And we brought in Dominic Lovett, and we also brought in what's his name, Ra Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost Kyrus Jackson, we lost AD Mitchell, who was probably one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen in Georgia history in the playoffs. And it's going to be interesting to see how Carson Beck moves into these guys. We still have Lad McConkey, we still have Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint. So we still have a lot of our elite core guys, but it's going to be really interesting to see how Dominic Love and Ra Thomas fill those shoes. And I just think there's a lot up for grabs right now, and I think we still have a lot to prove. And because we just lost so many guys to draft, and it's a lot of guys to kind of make their own statement among the Georgia football program and legacy. So, yeah, that's that. And I mean, like you said, like we have an elite secondary this year. I mean, we have just Kamari Last, Malachi Stark, Javon Bullard, which is interesting. Javon Bullard, he's normally a DB guy. He's moving back and running star with Tyke Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kirby was talking about that in the presser today. And so it's going to be interesting losing Chris Smith, and because he was a really good player. But I'm excited to see the way the season shakes out. And I really just hope that Kirby can instill that cult-like mentality again of that you are overshadowed and overlooked by Alabama.
A lot more material than last time. I don't know where you found it from last time, like I said, but he will this time. And all odds, you guys are, I mean, based on Vegas, you're going to go undefeated and win the SEC championship game. Your playoff game would most likely be in New Orleans, the Sugar Bowl. The other one's the Rose Bowl. Usually they let you guys like pick. It's not like a super thing, but it's always usually a home game for the number one team. And the national championship game is in Houston. Any teams nationally that you're looking out for, you'd like to play? Any teams that worry you at all?
I'm a lot worried about Michigan than I am Ohio State this year, and I'm a lot more worried. I'm not worried about USC this year, especially after seeing their defense against. That was embarrassing.
Are you a FSU or a Texas is back guy?
Texas is not back. No.
Correct.
FSU is a team that definitely could show some potential, but it's going to be on display against LSU. So that's going to be their coming to God moment if they are actually elite or not elite. And to be elite, you have a 1-score game with LSU. You either lose by 1 score or you win. So, I think that's going to be a big statement. But the thing is, looking at their ACC schedule, they can lose that LSU game they can't get blown out, but they can lose that game and go on to win everything else in the ACC and get into the playoff. So,
and they have no divisions there, so they can play Clemson in theory twice. And that's the problem with FSU and why I'm low on them. I'm not saying they're a bad team. It's just they're a transfer portal heavy team. And week 1 is LSU, which is like, all right, sick. Great game we have a bunch of guys running what the hell is going on. We don't even know their names. And then week 4 is at Clemson. Like the schedule is in no favors. I don't know what the ACC was thinking. It's like, hey, dude, you could have this Clemson at Florida State. Let's put it week, a week where the week where the SEC teams play like nobody's, right? Let's put that game right there. Make it the standalone game, showcase game. But no, let's put it week 4. It's still in September. I mean, if Florida State, realistically speaking, could be a good football team and be 2-2 at the end of September, and they just lose cap.
It's all out the window at that point. Yeah.
Clemson, they got a really good defense, but that offense is it's Will Shipley.
Who are they running at quarterback this year?
Cade Klubnik still. So he's the kid that would come in and basically he was like their closer. They'd have Uungalele would do 3 quarters. He's out at Oregon State now. He'd do 3 quarters, and then Cade would come in and do good. I'm a lot higher on Cade Klubnik than a lot of people are. Will Shipley's a damn good running back, but they got no receivers. So it's kind of like Michigan light, really. So I just don't know if any of these teams can really mess with Georgia like that. I would love to say Michigan could, or we didn't upgrade a receiver at all, really. Everyone's still back. Don Edwards might play a bit more out of the backfield, but JJ McCarthy can hopefully do his thing. But
I personally think JJ McCarthy is a really good quarterback. And I just don't see any other teams that can really compete with the likes of us, Alabama, LSU. And I really am not high on Ryan Day. I think Ryan Day overcomplicates a lot of things. I think he needs to actually run the team as a head coach and not some pseudo offensive coordinator, but
Yeah.
like, I don't know. What's another team that I think could come out of the nowhere is Texas A&M.
I'm okay. I like that as well.
Yeah, and because I think they just had a big time culture problem within the locker room last year. It's so what it seemed like on the outside, and I don't know. They still have amazing athletes in that program. So
Yeah, they've the number one transfer export team. I think there's some crazy
yeah,
stat like 10 of the SEC teams have an A&M transfer on their team. I think it's like you guys and like I forgot who the other one was, doesn't have one, but it's crazy because when they had that many guys come in, they were so active and obvious with their spending and buying of guys. They had the number one pass, number two, I think it was pass defense in the country last year and lost like one guy. So that's obviously good. And with Bobby Petrino coming in, if he's actually allowed to call plays, they've got the horses out there to make
yeah,
something
they
interesting.
do.
So
They really do. And I think the SEC West is going to be incredibly interesting this year.
so much fun,
And,
so much fun.
yeah, but I really do think Texas and Oklahoma are going to struggle big time in the SEC just because, even though we're kind of sidebarring here, just because they're not used to that kind of schedule production and level throughout the entire season sustained. You know, I don't think that they saw that previously. So I don't know. This is all speculation, but
Of course,
I, I,
yeah,
I really think they're going to struggle early on. And I really am disappointed we're not playing Oklahoma in the season opener. That's really disappointing.
yeah.
But
It would have been a fun game for sure.
we're having a fun game. And also you could have eliminated a lot. Like that's really what brought on all this schedule is like soft talk is because we literally are not playing Oklahoma in this first in the so
Same thing happened with Michigan last year. We were supposed to play Notre Dame and UCLA. We had to cancel UCLA to move it around after Notre Dame canceled on us. So Michigan would have played Notre Dame and UCLA last year, and instead we played Hawaii and UConn. So we beat them by combined, I think 120-3 or something stupid. So,
yeah.
but yeah, everyone likes to talk smack. Michigan's schedule next year is ridiculous. We go to 9 conference games. We add USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, and then we play Texas at home. So that's part of why Michigan's trying to get the time served penalty out of the way with Harbaugh. But
Yeah.
he had a podcast. He had an interview today where he just basically told the NCAA to suck his ass today. So I'm sure that's
Dude,
going to go
it's
well.
so ridiculous like the how that was caught and done. They're like he got sanctioned for it or whatever. And was it Tennessee that's just got caught too? And that was like for everything and all the evidence they had, that just kind of seemed like a little slap on the wrist, And it was,
Tennessee,
I know you're a
openly,
Tennessee fan too, so
I know, openly buying recruits.
yeah.
And
And
I said the craziest thing of that whole scheme, not to throw shade at Georgia, is they're like, yeah, we paid Darnell Washington $100,000.
he's probably
Like
yeah.
it's like, oh, he's a great Tennessee legend, right? No, he went to Georgia. Hmm. Makes
Hey,
you
the key
think.
is to not get caught, buddy. The key is not to get
He's already in
caught.
the league. Who cares? It's over. What is it? Statute of limitations already hit. So screw it.
Yeah.
But hey man, and hopefully my conference, not even just my team, gets their act together and starts actually paying some players. But
Yeah.
yeah. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, not too much. Like I think I kind of covered everything I wanted to talk about, but you know, in the language of Kirby Smart, we just got to keep chopping wood and stay elite. So
Yeah.
we got
Hopefully we'll be getting you on again throughout the season if there's a big update, big crazy game, something like that, or maybe a little in-person video at Houston in the national championship game. Worst case
oh
scenario.
yeah.
I plan to see you
That'd be
there.
very fun. Hey, thanks for having me on, Blake.
Of course, see you, man.
Yeah, man.
And now we bring on a member of the Notre Dame crew. I don't even know what I was gonna say there. The Fighting Irish, I guess, would make more sense. Tyler, we've got him back on the channel since the baseball preview, so he's back on. Thank you for hopping back on, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to be a representative of the Irish. I guess I'm like an adopted fan, I would say, but I hope my predictions are a little bit better than the baseball ones because that was rough. I hope you don't bring up the tapes on that.
No, we don't do that. Of course not. We bury the tape just like Dan Campbell would. But yeah, so basically we just kind of follow the same format here. We'll hop in. What's nice is we already have a game under wraps, so we've a bit more knowing what the hell is going on with predictions, which is kind of nice. So I guess we can kind of talk about the game on Saturday. A lot of people on Twitter, granted, I follow a lot of Ohio State people on Twitter because it's curated towards me, and they were not very moved. It was a lot of Michigan fans joking that they're gonna beat him, but obviously we won't jump too far ahead in that game. But what were some main takeaways you had from Saturday's game?
No, I thought it was a good like week 0 game. Very cool atmosphere, Dublin, all that. Historic rivalry, always fun to play. Good to get Hartman out there. Obviously, new team, new offensive coordinator, new all that. So I thought it was a good game for them to get their season started with. I'm not going to take too much of the score or anything like that, but when they have so many new players, so many new offensive skill position players, good game to get reps in, and just like a really cool atmosphere too as well. So
Yeah. Hartman looked pretty good. I mean, he's probably the best quarterback. I mean, I know people always forget about Ian Book. He was goddamn good. So I would say, everyone's like, oh, the best quarterback since, I don't know, they go way back. I'm like, dude, Ian Book was right there. But
well, he's the all-time leading wins in Notre Dame history by a starting quarterback. So
it's
you
pretty good.
can say, in some terms, he is the greatest of all time.
Yeah, but Adric Esteme, the running back, I always butcher his name. I always think, he was a lot better than people thought as well. Navy was supposed to sprinkle in the pass a little bit based on what they even said. I know Rico went viral.
That was hilarious. I thought that was
But
so funny. And we get to the place with all the Notre Dame fans I was watching with, and I was like, I heard Navy sprinkling in the pass, and I think it was the first time they threw one. The two guys ran into each other.
yeah,
That
it
was
was
all.
tough. They were wide open too. But and then the one time they did trickery was on the goal line when we needed to punch it in for the over, and it was a disgrace to America. But shout out the troops. Um,
Absolutely.
Up next this Saturday, week 1, we've got the Tennessee State. Looks like some sort of tiger. I know it's one of the HBCU. Yeah, the Tigers. One of the HBCUs is coming up. 3:30 NBC. Good little get right game. Obviously, nothing really much to worry about here.
Yeah. The only thing I know about Tennessee State is shout out Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie,
Oh
Tennessee
yeah.
State guy. Yes,
I'll tell you one
that's
thing
all I can
though.
tell you.
The HBCUs, they may suck at football on a major scale. I remember going to the Delaware State game against Michigan. Their bands are
True.
unbelievable.
That's true.
Unbelievable. When we watched them, and I think it was 66-3 was like the final score. Brandon Graham had 2 defensive touchdowns. Shout out the Philly guy.
Big time
Um,
shout out.
yeah. Delaware State, they like threw their trumpets down at one point and just all started moonwalking and doing backflips for Thriller. It was absolutely electric. Everyone was like, that deserves a better, they deserve better than the scoreboard than that. But
Well, yeah,
these
they have
games are
that
fun.
celebration bowl or whatever they call it. It's
Oh yeah,
down in the Superdome, I want to say. The halftime shows are always excellent for that. So
yeah.
that's always a must watch.
And these are the type of games that it sucks with conference expansion. We're gonna start losing out on because like these games will fund the athletic department for these programs for the next 2-3 years.
Sure,
It's just how it
sure.
is. Like they'll come up
Exactly.
here, collect their check, get killed by Notre Dame, have a fun time, but make 5 to 10 million for the university. So
Right. Hopefully it's not a repeat of Marshall of last year, though.
yeah, that'd be tough though. This team's pretty bad. But then we have a really good game. Sneakily, one of the more underrated games out there. People will not be looking at it that much. Week 3, I'm trying to think. There's a few games that are big in week 3, but I think NC State, in NC State, in what I think it's Raleigh, the Wolfpack. You got Brennan Armstrong, the ex-Virginia quarterback, one of the better guys in the portal that was kind of underrated, teaming up back with his old offensive coordinator, in which they made Virginia a very formidable outfit. The Wolfpack look to upset the Notre Dame in the first of their many ACC obligated games. What do we think about this one?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be an interesting game. I think it's like one of the few like true coin flip games, I would say, on the schedule. Because I was looking back on this NC State team and like they had a bad record last year, but most of it was after Leary got hurt. I think they
Yeah.
played Clemson pretty close, and they're like 5-1 in those games, and I think they finished 8-5 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you exactly what they have returning back, but I think it'll be interesting to see how Armstrong looks like at a much better school. He's gonna get much better athletes. He's gonna have much better talent around him than he had at Virginia. And I mean, that Virginia teams, like you said, they would always play teams tough. Like they're not gonna beat any teams, but in an ACC going on the road, like I want to say, is this game? Oh, it's at noon. That
Yeah,
makes me feel a little bit better. I feel like
a lot
a
better.
night game down in NCC would be tough. So I think it was an interesting game. I do like Notre Dame. I'll be surprised if the line is like more than a touchdown, but it's gonna be an interesting game to see, especially like you get that week 3, excuse me, after playing like 2 relatively easy opponents to set like the tone for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it'll be week 3 for you guys, but I think technically it's week 2.
Right.
So that was
That's
why
what
I
I
was
meant.
like, I knew September 9th is all the big games. You got like the Miami Miami A&M, and Texas, Alabama. So then up next, we've got the Central Michigan Chippewas, my father's alumni. Some really good guys have come through this school, obviously, in the years past. JJ Watt, Antonio Brown, Eric Fisher, and then the ghost of Dan Lefevre that upset Sparty. This team's going to be playing Michigan State this year. I kind of like them to cover in that one, but Central Michigan at home on the Peacock. What are we thinking here? 2:30 kick, weird time.
Yeah, well, I guess this would be the Marshall game this year, so anything but a repeat of that would be a success. Definitely like trap game potential. Looking ahead, Ohio State, like the Irish, obviously, but certainly not a game to overlook too much.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be really too much to worry about. They are losing a lot since Michigan. Their best running back, the guy that led the nation of rushing 2 years ago, Lou Nichols, is out in Green Bay now. He got drafted. Their quarterback transferred to FAU, so I don't think there's really much to worry about there. And then I believe it's the most expensive ticket of the season. Michigan, Ohio State is right behind it. Ohio State, speaking of them, against Notre Dame, I'm looking here, $548. Crazy. Sunday night, though, NBC. Probably got to be feeling a lot better after the Navy game. I know probably a little bit of overreaction. The spread went from 10 to 8.5, which is a relatively significant movement after one game. But
I don't know if we're looking ahead week 6. This is like 5 weeks ahead. We're already looking at lines like that.
Well, it's already moved down 1.5. That's kind of big off of one game. But what are we thinking about this game?
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a tough one. I'm not I'm not even gonna deny it. Ohio State's good. They're the standard right now in all of college football. There's not very high. I don't have much expectations in this game, to be honest. I don't know. It's just they are Ohio State.
Yeah, what I would say is you've got a serviceable quarterback, clearly more than serviceable. I'd say it's almost an insult to him. You've got so I would say serviceable trenches is more what I was looking for. You've got an elite quarterback, and Ohio State struggled at their run defense up front in addition to their secondary. I mean, their secondary was horrible last year. I mean, JJ McCarthy lit them up as well as Stetson Bennett. So not, household names doing that. Sam Hartman should have no problem piecing them up. And, they're breaking in a new quarterback. This is going to be their new quarterback's like first test, really. I mean, they play a bunch of cupcakes up to this point. And they're replacing 3 of their 5 offensive linemen. 2 of their tackles are brand new. They're maybe even starting a freshman. So a lot of overturn for Ohio State. Vegas, has it as, obviously them coming in, walking in and having no problem. I mean, Notre Dame didn't lose a ton last year. They hung in a ton, very, very, I mean, they were leading at halftime last year, kind of out of nowhere. And, they kept it within 10 points. So I don't know. I could definitely see this game getting super interesting. I think Ohio State will pull away late, but I think it's going to be one of those, everybody needs to have the TV on at this game. You'll get the little ESPN text alert to the casuals who aren't actually watching, and it's like, hey, upset alert. Watch out what's going on here in South Bend. But
yeah, I mean it's gonna be a fun game to watch. It'll be a great atmosphere. It's just like the skill position is just where there's just the talent gap is quite large.
Do you wear the green jerseys at night, or is it like a day game thing, or could this be like
I
green jersey look?
that will be for USC.
Okay, yeah. So after that, at Duke, I think it's Riley Leonard and I always forget the coach's name, but it always comes to me. Is it Elko? Yeah, Mike Elko. He was the XD coordinator over at A&M. There's no game time yet, but I'm sure it'll be probably a noon game. Duke coming off of one of the better seasons they've had in a very long time last year. Pretty good serviceable outfit, and really good turnover luck, and a much harder schedule this year. I'm a little bit lower on Duke than a lot of people are, and I think Notre Dame should handle business. I don't know how you feel about the game.
Yeah, I agree. Duke, they play hard for this coach. Was it last year they were just like horrific defensively?
Last year they were bad defensively, but they had like the best turnover margin in the country, so it kind of bailed them out.
Yeah.
So statistically, they were like, "What the hell is this? How does this work?" But it's like they just kept getting turnovers. It was crazy.
Gotcha. So probably a little regress to the mean this season.
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. So
yeah. Speaking of week schedules, at Louisville up next. I will say that they do have a new coach, Jeff Brom, the ex-head coach of the Purdue Boilermakers.
Psycho. He's a
Yeah.
he's a dog. Look at
Upset
guys playing.
mastermind. Yeah. So the last thing you want is where ranked teams go to die. It was West Lafayette. Now it's over in Louisville, Kentucky. No Malik Cunningham, not nearly as sexy, but they bring in, I think Plummer is the kid's name. He's related to the other Plummer. It was the NFL. And yeah, a ton of transfers, ton of turnover, but this is a little bit in the middle of the season, so they should probably have their ducks in a row by now. This could be a formidable outfit, I think, for Notre Dame. But back-to-back ACC road games, they should probably take care of business of this one as well.
Yeah, I like that as well. Sounds like Louisville could be a little scrappy this year, so I'll be looking out for them for some road ACC games.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. They have a pretty favorable schedule, pretty similar to Duke last year. I mean, I would not be surprised if Louisville's. You look up and you're like, wait, how are they ranked 17th and they're 9-3 at the end of the year? It's like, what the hell did this happen? So, and kids that think they know they're talking about be like, I like Louisville in the ACC. You'll hear that a lot the rest of this week here. So, and then we got the second biggest game, technically on numbers here, USC at home, 7:30, NBC. What are we thinking?
I think this is going to be, I think this is one, like they obviously have the three big games this year, Ohio State, USC, and Clemson. This is the one that will feel like the best at preseason. Obviously, like they went on the road last year and beat them. And so I think, I mean, I'm not totally bought into USC this year. I was like reading the article that they're kind of all in on winning this year with Caleb Williams, with Lincoln Riley, all the money that they've invested, all the donors. You know, they want to start to see some return on their investment. But for me, it's like, for the last couple of years, I haven't seen like that USC dominance that, you know, I've heard about. You know, we're too kind of young, I think, to really say that we witnessed the Pete Carroll stuff.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like always been Notre Dame has kind of handled USC really, really well. And if Hartman's as good as he's supposed to be, and you know the receivers develop, like they got a lot of young receivers and are returning a lot there. If you feel pretty confident, like why not take care of them at home?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I mean, obviously they've got a lot going on offense. What we learned from week one alone, Zachariah Branch, this kid is all world. He had a kick return touchdown in addition to a receiving touchdown. The offense is never the problem, right? It's Lincoln Riley. That defense, so San Jose State, bad team, right? They've got Cade Carrera over there now, the ex-Hawaii quarterback, but remember him from that. In their offense, they averaged 80 yards, I think it was rushing. They had 220 against USC. They were spraying all over the field. They scored 28 points. I mean, they were hanging with them for a long time. I think it was like a 3rd and 29. They did an all-out blitz, and Cordero ran for 30 yards and got the first down. It was ugly, man. That defense really needs to figure it out. And if you give him a competent coach, obviously a competent coach in Hartman and more importantly, quarterback, right? Sam Hartman. I think they're going to piece him up. Obviously, you can never count out Caleb, but when I think of teams like Notre Dame and I think of teams like Michigan and some of these like ground and pound run it out teams, this running clock is really going to be helpful for those guys. I mean, we saw how fast that first half went, man. Holy. I think it was like one of the fastest first halves they've had in a long time. Obviously, the triple option is always fast, but now they have a running clock with that. I've been saying some of these teams could just get a touchdown or two and just kind of sit on games, and you'll just be like, I can't come back. The game's over. It's crazy, you know? So,
I mean, looking at USC's schedule, they're going to be undefeated walking into that game.
Their schedule is so backloaded.
I don't see them actually getting tested. I mean, if Colorado is actually what we're being sold, but I don't.
No, that's a bye game. But USC, their schedule, I was saying, is insane. They have nobody in the first half, and then they have 5 or 6 are road ranked games. It's crazy.
Right. And then on the flip side, Notre Dame's going to play at Ohio State. There's going to play at NC State. There's going to play it at that speed.
Yeah, a lot of those tricky games. They got a lot of tough games, right? And they're all on the road. And then you come at home against USC, pound the rocks, sit on that game, end it quickly. You get a bye week on the 21st, the 28th. Pat Narduzzi's men come to town, 3:30 NBC. I don't even know.
I've never
Phil
been
Jerkovich, I think.
Yeah, he's the Notre Dame transfer. Is he? Was he at BC?
Yeah, he's I think it was Notre Dame to BC, now to Pitt.
Yes,
Oof.
he's a Pittsburgh guy. I know that. That'll be funny to see him coming back to town. I don't think he's very well liked. None of these quarterbacks that have left Notre Dame, they don't like him too much.
No, it should be taking care of business. Pitt is, I don't know, he lost Israel Adesanya to the pros, to the Jets. I don't even know if he's on the team. I know he's on the preseason team, but I just don't see it with Pitt. And I think it's a good get right game before the big one, traveling to one of the Death Valleys, depending on who you ask.
Or
Clemson, TBD, it's going to be 7:30. We know it's going to be a night game, probably game day, because it's going to be probably a top 10 Notre Dame, I'd imagine, coming up on loss against Clemson, who should be undefeated at this point. I mean, I don't believe in Florida State, but we'll see. Probably the second biggest game for Clemson. Yeah.
yeah, sure. And I mean, like we talked a little bit about how there's a path for Notre Dame to beat USC. This is a game like I kind of like the Ohio State game where I just don't see it. I think it's again too much skill position talent on the Clemson side with a very, very good quarterback on the road. They just don't on paper, they just don't match up with a team like that yet. So
Yeah, the hope would be when Wake Forest played Clemson last year and went to like triple overtime.
sure.
So I would think the trench plays probably a bit better at Notre Dame, obviously, but I mean, we'll see for sure. I mean, it's gonna be a great game. Obviously, everyone will be tuned in no matter what. Then there's another bye week because of week 0, you get 2 bye weeks, so that'll be the 11th. Then into unfortunately, this game's at home. It'd be great if it was on the road.
Right.
Sam Hartman revenge game. Not really revenge. He kind of left on pretty good terms, but
Mhm.
that's what the media is going to say. What are we thinking about Wake Forest here in the penultimate game?
I'm not a big Wake Forest guy. I've felt like they've been frauds the last couple of years, even though they've played like teams tough and have had like solid seasons. So I love the Irish and I like Sam Hartman going up against the old squad. I think it'll be a fun game too to watch.
Yeah, after this year, I mean, you're gonna. I mean, guys like me are gonna be like, "Hey, oh, Wake Forest, the team that had Kenneth Walker and Hartman, and they both were better
Crazy,
when they left."
right? It's insane.
And then final, we have the potentially ACC team, Stanford. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where we're at nowadays. Stanford, I think, has a win total of 2.5. They're currently like a 3-point favorite against Hawaii. Yikes!
that's crazy. That's actually crazy.
It's just fun Thanksgiving trip to the Bay Area for the Irish faithful.
Absolutely. Finish the year off nice and strong. Um, but no, it's good. It's a fun schedule. That's what I think. There's a lot of good games. If they're as good as they're supposed to be, they'll be in a lot of the games. If they're not as good as they're supposed to be, at least, they can pick up, they'll be bowl eligible. So there's enough
Yeah.
cupcakes in there. But we'll see. It's interesting. We'll see how Hartman is. It's finally like there's so much hype around him. I haven't seen this much hype around a Notre Dame quarterback in a while. Um, I mean, I've never been the biggest Sam Hartman guy. Like people kind of forget he got benched at Wake Forest and got
Yeah, they
lucky.
do. They do.
Like Jamie Newman, that whole situation, which is a weird situation
Whatever
too.
happened to him? He went to
But
Georgia.
yeah, went to Georgia and
disappeared.
then didn't play in COVID and then didn't get drafted. So
It's probably like in Canada killing it or something for the Argonauts or something.
I bet. But young on offense, but they have a lot of talent on defense, and they're pretty old, pretty some good vets on the defensive side. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see how Freeman does in his second year too. They love him down there. He can do no wrong in the Irish eyes, which is a good start to your tenure because they could turn on you quick. So I'd be excited to see the year.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, probably looking at a New Year's Six bowl. I guess I would say my question would be, I always try to think of a good question for all of these here. With the way the college football playoff is expanding, and they're likely going to get rid of the whole independent group of 5 thing, do you see Notre Dame putting up and shutting up and joining a conference, or do you think it's still going to be kind of show me the money type of deal?
I mean, as long as they have that NBC deal, it just gives them like so much autonomy, because they have like no incentive to join a conference. And I think it will be interesting, like you said, how they determine exactly how this work. But I can't see like the Irish not figuring out a way to get like a seat at the table, like somehow reserve a way for them to have like an automatic bid in this, in a sense, into the
Yeah.
playoff. Like somehow there's the extra Power 5 / Notre Dame. Like I don't know. There's always it's tough for them. They're such a natural brand. I was just like reading it was 40,000 people traveled to the US for the Dublin game, and 32,000 of them were like Notre Dame fans.
Yeah.
It's just incredible how big the brand is, and as we're just seeing more and more, like money just rules everything. So
Yeah.
for the time being, as long as they have that NBC contract, they can stay pretty solid being independent, but we'll see. Obviously, this could look stupid in 6 weeks because that's how this shit has been working out in the last couple of years. So
Yeah, it just seems so weird. I was just doing this earlier when the news was breaking, and it's kind of like, okay, so you're looking ACC, all right? You're looking at Louisville, not Louisville. Obviously, already have Louisville. Looking at what Stanford, Cal, and SMU, and it's like, okay,
SMU is, yeah, I mean, it's a huge school. Like you think about it, it's like a huge school.
no, I get SMU for sure. What I'm saying is
I don't know.
that's 3 schools. Okay,
Right.
so does that mean you're gonna lose one? Or like, is Florida State and JP Morgan going to be like, all right, we're out of here? Or does that mean you add Notre Dame to the ACC? You already play a ton of games. Every other sport's already an ACC sport. Or does that mean Florida State leaves, goes to the Big Ten, and you have Notre Dame join them there? I don't know. So I think that Notre Dame is a big in play, and what I've been saying to a lot of people is watch out for UConn in this. I think UConn can come out of nowhere because it's like they've obviously just won the national championship in the Big East in basketball. So if Notre Dame doesn't play ball with the Big Ten, it's like, hey, let's just get UConn. I mean, obviously, I've been on record that they should have gotten UConn over Rutgers anyway, but it's just interesting to see how it plays out. Any other big predictions or your little college football takes you want to get off your chest? Like get a playoff you can spit out for us, or
Geez. I mean, I could just go Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, USC, and I feel like that will make me pretty safe. It's a pretty safe one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd obviously disagree with Michigan.
Yeah, I know.
I understand. I get it, man. Like, if you're a neutral, like a gambling person, just looking at the odds, and you're like, they don't have a quarterback. They're losing a ton on defense, losing a bunch up front, and they're still favored. That's what I would be looking at. If I was a neutral person, I'd be like, that makes no sense. Like Michigan has beat the hell out of them the last 2 years. So that's the only reason why I'm not like super overly confident in the whole
Let's
thing.
get there. Let's get there. You're looking too far ahead, man.
I'm with you.
beat IU, or who do they play first? Michigan.
We play East Carolina. Ohio State plays Indiana. So
There you go.
yeah, we're worried about beating some cases off the field and getting out of the way of our burger suspensions. So it's us versus the NCAA right now. So
Oh my God.
that's the biggest opportunity this week. But I don't know if you saw what the Michigan's doing with their opening 3 games. They're gonna have 3 different head coaches, including Harbaugh's dad is gonna be an assistant head coach.
Sure.
I love it. He's just full of troll mode right now. So that's the revenge tour factor in there, which is nice because I always am worried that Michigan was going to get complacent, winning so much recently, that they're going to forget that, hey, it's really tough to do really well in this sport. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all we have for the Notre Dame edition of this part of the I guess a long length video and podcast. So thank you for hopping on, Tyler.
Absolutely, anytime.
Definitely get you on soon, whether it be for the Birds or the Sixers or whatever the hell happens with James Harden. Who knows? I didn't want
maybe
trigger,
not get me on.
I didn't want to trigger you at the end there, but yeah. But yeah, thank you for coming on, and we'll see you soon.
All right, sweet.